Welcome to educator.com. This lesson is about percent of change. In this lesson, you will learn to find the percent of change. Applications for this are to describe how much an amount increases or decreases over time. Percent of change. This represents the percent a quantity increases or decreases from its original amount. You would use the proportion amount of change divided by original amount equals percent of change over 100. You might also see it as amount of change over original amount equals percent of change over 100. This is commonly represented by P. Finding a percent of increase. A class had 20 students in student council last year. This year, the class had 24 students in student council. Excuse me. Find the percent increase in the number of students in student council. So here are some steps that you may want to copy down, and you can reuse these steps. First, we're going to find the amount of change. There's 24 this year, so we're going to subtract 20, and the amount of change is 4. Now let's set it up in the proportion. If you remember from the last slide, the proportion would be amount of change 4 over the previous number, which in this case is 20, equals the percent of change P, which is what we're looking for, over 100. We're going to find the cross products, but first I'm going to simplify this because I could divide by 4 and divide by 4, and I will get 1 over 5 equals P over 100. So I found the amount of change here. It was 4. We wrote the proportion, and now we're going to find the cross products. 1 times 100 equals 5P. And next we'll solve for the variable, dividing both sides by 5. And P equals 20. So now we have P is 20, and as a percentage, it's going to be 20%. In this case, this already represents a percent, so you won't be changing the decimal into a percent. You already will have percent. Just make sure to include, I guess we should say, include percent symbol. Next, let's try converting units. Remember to convert all units to the all measurements to the same unit first. I'll explain what I mean. At the track meet last year, the longest jump recorded was 12 feet and 6 inches. This year, the record was 13 feet and 4 inches. Find the percent increase of the long jump this year. Well, here we have feet and inches, feet and inches. We're going to convert everything into inches. So 12 feet, and there's 12 inches in a foot, so that's 144, plus the 6 inches that are extra, and we get 150. So last year, the longest jump recorded was 150 inches. Now this year, we've gone up to 13 feet times 12 to find the inches, 62031, 651, 156 plus the extra 4 will get us to 160. So this year we're at 160 inches. So let's set up our proportion. First we're going to find the amount of change, which is 160 this year minus last year's 150. So it's 10. Over last year's amount, 150, equals the percent of change over 100. Now before I find cross products, I'm going to simplify so that the numbers are easier to work with. I can cancel out the zeros, basically dividing by 10, and now I have 1 over 15 equals P over 100. I'm going to cross multiply and get 100 equals 15P. And now I can divide both sides by 15. Do my division over here. It'll go in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and that's 3390 with 10, it's going to be about 6.6 or 6.67 So the percent increase is 6.67%. Let's find a percent of decrease. So far we've been looking at percent of increase. So we started with 104, and we're going to find the amount of change, subtracting this here. 14 minus 8 is 6, and 9 minus 7 is 2. So we have 26 over last year's amount. This time it's the larger number, 104, and we're going to set that equal to P over 100. We've created the proportion. I'm also going to simplify here. I could divide by 2 and get 13 over 52, just to make the numbers easier to work with. And now I'm going to find my cross product. 1300 equals 52p. And I can divide by 52. P equals, let's do our division up here. It's about 50. So in 130 we could have 2. That would give us 104. 10 minus 4 is 6. I borrowed 2 and 0. And 50 into 260 is about 5. So 5 times 2 is 10. Carry 1, 25, 26. And that's perfect. So P equals 25. So the percent in increase is 25%. Or actually, this is decrease this time. So the percent in decrease is 25%. You don't need to indicate negative as long as the word decrease is mentioned. Let's find the percent increase of 14 to 35. So first we're going to find the amount of change. 5 minus 4 is 1, 3 minus 1 is 2. So we have 21 over 14, the original, equals P over 100. And this I can simplify. Dividing by 7, I'll have 3 over 2. It's going to make my numbers easier to work with. Now we're going to find the cross product. 300 equals cross product 2P. Divide both sides by 2, and P equals 150. So there's a 150% increase. And we can see that here because not only has it increased another 14, which would be 100%, that would get us to 28, and then it's another 7 on top of that, another 50%. So here the percent increase has gone up over double, so 150%. Find the percent decrease of 7 to 2. So let's find our amount of change. 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 goes over the original number 7, and that's going to equal the percent of change over 100. Let's find our cross products here. We have 500 equals 7p. Divide both sides by 7. P equals, I'm going to divide here, 500. 7 times 7 is 49. 10 goes in once. 30. So we can continue this. We'll go in 3. Oh, no, actually 4. Which is 28, and leaving us with 20 if we were going to continue, which would be 2. So I'm going to round it to 71.4%, and this is a decrease of 71.4%. A puppy weighed 2 pounds and 8 ounces when he was adopted. A year later, he weighed 6 pounds and 10 ounces. Find his percent increase in weight. So remember that first you want to make sure all your measurements are in the same unit. So I'm going to change pounds to ounces. 16 times 2 gives me 32 ounces for the 2 pounds, plus the extra 8 is the total of 40 ounces here. Then I have 6 pounds times 16, and 96 plus the extra 10 gives me 106. So my change here is 106, how much the puppy weighs now, minus 40, the weight when he was adopted, and that gives us 66. So my change is 66 over 40, the original amount. The amount of change, 66, over the original amount, 40, equals percent of change over 100. I'm going to simplify here to 33 over 20 by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2 and do my cross products. 3,300 equals 20p. Divide both sides by 20. I'm going to simplify first by taking off these zeros, basically dividing by 10. That'll make my division a little bit easier. Goes in once, goes in 6 times, and goes in 5 times perfectly. So the percent of increase in weight is 165%. So he has more than doubled his weight here, 165%. Last year there were 60 students trying out for the football team. This year there were 45 students trying out. Find the percent decrease in students trying out for the football team. So we have 60 from last year and 45 from this year. So let's find our change. 10 minus 5 is 5. We borrowed, so 5 minus 4 is 1. So this year there's 15 less students. So that's our change. That's 15 over last year, which was the original amount, equals P, the percent of change, over 100. Now let's simplify this left ratio here. By dividing the top and bottom by 15, I can get 1 over 4. It's going to make my cross products much easier to work with. Cross product 100, cross product 4P, and divide both sides by 4. P equals 25%. So there was a 25% decrease. Thank you for watching educator.com.